Now, we know that there are the Four Noble Truths, and even the doctrine of dependent origination operates there, cause and effect. Now, what are the causes and effects? We say, let us recapitulate what we have done last time. Now, what are the causes and effects of the Four Noble Truths? Because the doctrine of dependent origination goes into details with regard to cause and effect, or action and reaction, in the moral realm, not in the physical. Now in the physical realm also there are certain physical laws. Now there is Newton's law. One of the laws which says that if there is a force which goes on moving, you can't counteract it unless there is an equal and opposite force to counteract it. In the same way, in the moral realm, now the Christians, they say, as you sow, you will reap. We say not only as you sow, you reap, as you reap, you sow, both ways. So, because we believe in a series of births and deaths, we believe, in other words, the doctrine of rebirth. Now, let us see about these four important noble truths, which I think Reverend Minder spoke to you today. Now, let us see the causes and effects. The first noble truth is the cause or the effect of craving. Craving is the cause, the effect is suffering. Now Nibbana, now we are speaking today about Nirvana or Nibbana. Nibbana is the Pali word, Nirvana is more familiar known as the Sanskrit word. Now what is Nirvana? Is it the cause or the effect? The effect. Effect of the cause. What is the cause of treading the Magga, the Noble Eightfold Path? You know the Noble Eightfold Path, which consists of 8 factors, and it is summarized into 3. What are the 3? The 3 training or sikka. What are they? Start with Panya. You want to do a high jump. Yes, because Samma Ditti and Samma Sankappa. Samma Ditti is right understanding or right views. Samma Sankappa are right thoughts or aspirations. There are 3 of them. We are going to details. Then that is wisdom. Then the next is what? Sila or virtue, which consists of right speech, right actions, right livelihood. Then we find another 3 which constitute with samadhi or concentration. What are they? Right effort, samma vayama, samma sati, right mindfulness, and samma samadhi. That comes under samadhi. But usually when you practice the path, you have to go from virtue, concentration and wisdom. It's a graduated course, just like going from the kindergarten to the university. We have to go step by step. Now, we have just told you about the causes and effects with regard to the Noble Eightfold Path. Now, in the doctrine of dependent origination, there are how many factors? Altogether? 12. 12 factors. 2 belong to the past. What are they? Ignorance of not knowing the Four Noble Truths, or ignorant of anicca, dukkha, anatta, because you don't see the real nature of life. You accumulate sankharas. What are sankharas? Volitional activities or karma formations. You do good and bad actions because of ignorance. That is of the past. And then what happens? There is vijnana. What is that vijnana? Relinking consciousness. Now, 2 factors belong to the past. There are factors which belong to the present existence. What are they? Vijnana is consciousness. Then nama rupa, mind and body. Salayatana, the sense bases. Yes? Now you must learn this by heart. Yeah. Passa is contact. Vedana is feeling. Tanna is craving. Upadana is what? clinging, grasping, like the grip of the crocodile. We have the qualities of the crocodile. Now when you give an apple to a child or an orange, he is taken up by the shape of it and he likes it. So what does he do? He clings onto it. He grasps it with his hand. In our case, we not only grasp material things, we grabbing nature. Grabbing. We grab and we cling on to what? Wealth, power, prestige, position, and that sort of thing. That is called, and we cling on to them. Not only we, just like raising the hand is tanna. Upadana is what? Like the grip of the crocodile. You grasp it, cling it, clutching. So we see that according to the teachings of the Buddha, you find these 5 links in the, why not 5, how much? Upadana, bhava. Up to the stage of bhava, up to the stage, how many factors there? Altogether? Pardon? 8. 8 belong to the present. Now grasping, and what is this karma there? What's the meaning of karma? Karma bhava, that means the actions that you accumulate now. Now at this present moment, when you are listening to me on this talk on the doctrine of dependent origination, you are creating a very powerful karmic force, more powerful than electricity. Can you see it? No. But a very powerful. You know, all the powerful forces in the universe are silent. They don't make a big fuss. Now see the naughty boys and all that, they run about, the naughty girls also now, the tomboys, right? They'll make a big fuss, running about here and there. But all the good things of this universe and all the powerful things are silent. All the naughty things, all the bad things are going to make a big fuss. Now see, if there is an earthquake, volcano, it makes a big fuss, cyclone, and the damage is visible. It is very clear, evident. But the good forces are silent, but very powerful. They didn't make a big fuss. Now let us take the sun. The sun arises in the east. There is no trumpeting and fanfare, no fuss. Then if not for the sun, there won't be any type of habitation on earth. There won't be plant life, animal life, human life. There won't be life whatsoever. Then when the sun sets also, there is no fuss, no trumpeting, no noise. Then when the day is converted into night, see what a tremendous phenomenon takes place. But there is no fuss. When there was some of you, I think would have been alive when a total eclipse of the sun took place. Who were the people who were about 20 years back? They would have seen, the younger crowd wouldn't have seen it. Within, it was like this very bright sunshine and all of a sudden, not even a second, it became, all of a sudden what? Night, and the birds and the animals, all the birds started making a noise, and straight away. But there was no noise. Right? But that phenomenon took place, and later on, after 5 minutes, again it became daylight. So you see that all the good things of this universe, all the silent things in this universe are very powerful. Just like the law of gravitation. See, no big fuss being made, but what a powerful force it is. If you go up without any prop, what will happen? You will fall down. So that is the law of gravitation. Even that is a powerful force, but it's silent. Now even the good things that you do, now see, it is very powerful. Can you just imagine the Buddha 2500 years ago? He preached the first sermon, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. And when he preached that, there were how many individuals? How many persons present? Only 5. One attained the first stage of sainthood. That message which he proclaimed at the deer park at Isipatana 2500 years ago, yet lives in the hearts and minds of individuals, down the corridors of time. Now after 2000 years, you see, it yet lives. Every person somewhere, a Buddhist in the world, will be thinking of him, whether in Japan or in England or in China, all Buddhist countries. In Malaysia now we are thinking of him. So, see that powerful message, that Jesus Christ. And that message won't have taken, if you read the whole thing without the repetitions, it won't take more than 5 minutes. Then what about the Sermon on the Mount, preached by Jesus Christ? Nearly 1,000, how many years back? Now 1,988. We have come to 89 now. Now it means that sermon doesn't take even 3 minutes, but it lives in the hearts and minds of Christians, even today. Then Prophet Muhammad, see that message he preached so many years back, thousands of years, yet it lives in the hearts and minds of those who follow the doctrine of Islam. So it influences. People have become Arahats, so on. Now, by listening to this doctrine, and it has changed many people's minds, and they become better individuals. So it is very silent, but big. Now think of the bad things. What about terrorism? What a big fuss. People are being killed now. That is happening in Sri Lanka and some other countries, in England also, in Scotland, and all these people are fighting. In India, Punjab, then see the big fuss. People are killing each other using T-56 and killing others, weapons, all kinds of weapons. But it won't last for long. How long did the Vietnam War last? 30 odd years. You were not born. How much did he say? How many years? 2 years. Not 30 years. And now it is all over. See the bad things. Earthquake, when it does a damage, now earthquake in Russia. You know, observe. It killed over a lakh of people, and 2 villages, 2 towns were completely swept away. One town consisting of 53,000 persons were killed. Talk a big, noise. But now, silent. There is no all the damage has been done, and now the people are suffering, there is no noise. Cyclone is also that. So you see the bad things of this universe make a big fuss, but it doesn't last for long. Now if there is, we say, manslaughter, murder, killing, for the time being. So I pointed out all this to show that the things that we do, even now, for these 2 weeks, you have become different individuals. Now your clinging, your grasping is less. Your tanna is less now. When you go and do your business, tanna will increase again. Gradually it will go up. But the Dhamma will control you. For certain business people, now they are very happy here. No business worries, no debit and credit. You are not trying to balance your budget. Right? Nothing. Now you are free from all that. So how your mind is free. As if a big burden that you are carrying, you are putting it down. So we see that this day, this tanna, what I want to speak, kamma bhava. What is that kamma there means? The present actions that you are doing. Now what about sankharas there? Avijja, pacha. It pertains to previous lives. Now here the bhava here, same thing. Bhava here is what? The actions that you do now. Now what you are thinking now of the Dhamma, you are creating a very powerful force, more powerful than electricity. But you don't see it, invisible, like the law of gravitation. But it is powerful. And it is all pervasive, all pervading. It has a more lasting effect. Bad things short-lived, tuck it goes. So you see, that kamma there means, the kamma bhava means actions that you do now. That leads to what? What are the future? What are the things in the future? Our small Samanera, where he is in a different world. Yes, now you must answer this question. Right, very good. Then now what happens, what about the future? Two things in the future. Right, now you create karma, right? Naturally you are yet young, so you have to be a bit naughty. You have to control, So that's why the Dhamma is restraining you, otherwise you have been running. At home you have been running round about, hitting people, right? Fighting. Now you are quiet. So see, the Dhamma has changed you to some extent. Right? You are here with a smiling face, right? You won't come with all your pranks here. You won't try your pranks on the other, right? It's less control. So, right, sit down. You're a good Samana. So you see that, because I can't ask him that question, the point is, but you have to have a look at it, because the point is, because he will be looking down, looking up, like a monkey, you will be like a monkey mind. All of us have the monkey mind. When you are young, the monkey mind is very strong. You also have the monkey mind to jump in from this object to another. We like to see beautiful objects, we like to listen to melodious music, and that sort of thing. So we see that what are the future things, yes? Yeah. Bhava, Bhavapachya, Jati. Jati is birth. Jati there meaning taking conception in the mother's womb. Jati, Jara, Marana. Jara, Marana is, Jara is decay. Decay and death. Now that is the thing that I told you last time. This is how. Now let us get into Nirvana. We are going to enter into the bus of Nirvana to take us into Nirvana bus. There is not a bus, there is not a place to go. But now, yeah. Fully accommodated, but fully equipped. So, here now, the main, now we are going on, we are now discoursing on Nirvana. And this is my last stop, so now you must know, now we learnt about what? First of all, Dana, I taught you. Then Dasaparamita, then 10 perfections. That makes you to become a Buddha or an Arahant. Then we talked about, we gave 2 lectures on that, we enumerated the 10 perfections, and then we went on to what? The 31 planes of existence. We spoke about that. Then we gave 2 lectures on that. Then 2 lectures we spoke on Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta, on impermanence, on the unsatisfactory nature of life, and the last on non-self, Anatta, because that constitutes what? What bhavana? Vipassana meditation, trying to see things as they truly are. Then we spoke on the doctrine of dependent origination last time, and now we gave a summary, a synopsis of what took place last time to refresh your memories. Now we come to Nirvana. Now the small Samanera must look here, look at me, right? And then I will take you to Nirvana. Now look at me. Yeah. Then you won't make a big fuss about it. You won't be so boisterous. Now listen carefully. Nirvana. Ni is the extinction. Ni is what? Extinction or to negate. Negate or do away with craving. Vana is craving or tanna. Nirvana. Vana is craving. That means you bring all your desires to naught. Mathematically speaking, you reduce all your desires to naught. You know, I told the story of Socrates. I told you last time. Did I tell you here? Or did I tell you at Penang? Did I tell you the story of Socrates? I think I told you here. He had a very nagging wife. And the wife used to scold Socrates, nag him. And then he used to practice patience. He never gets angry. So one day it so happened, his wife fell sick. And Socrates used to meet young people, like our young Samaner and others, and he used to discuss various questions. And one day it so happened, when the wife fell sick, while he was going, he was very sad. And then the other young people asked him, why are you sad? He said, today my wife is sick and I didn't get any scolding today. That's why I am sad. Why? When my wife scolds me, I practice patience. Today I can't practice patience. So one day while he was going with his wife, the wife as usual had all the money and told Socrates, you can buy anything that you want from the supermarket. Then Socrates said, I don't want anything. That nirvana, ethically speaking, is the reduction of all your desires. That means you don't desire not only sensual pleasures, you don't desire to be born in the Deva Loka, as a powerful Deva. You don't like to have the good things of life, they are in abundance. Then you don't want to be born in the Rupa Loka. What is the Rupa Loka? Form realms, or the Arupi Loka, 31 states of being and becoming. We have no desire for any of those states. Now that is, ethically speaking, morally speaking, it reduces all your desires to naught. Then Nirodha. Nirodha, now the word Nirodha is used, Nirodha Satya, in the Four Noble Truths. Now Nibbana means also same thing, or Nibbana, you can take it in this way also. You are released from the prison house of Sansara. All of us are prisoners in Sansara. You know Sansara? Sansara is the wheel of life and death. So, when you attain Nirvana, you are free. Like a bird when he is in a cage. No birds like to be in a cage. When it is released, he is happy. Freedom is there, complete freedom. Now, to understand the nature of Nirvana, we have 5 characteristics of Nirvana. Now I will make a note, 5. That is the highest happiness. Listen to me, I will write down the board. The second characteristic, perfect detachment. There is no attachment in Nirvana. Just like the lotus, I will just explain to you later. Then Nirvana is the highest freedom. That is called in Pali, is the Nibbanam Paranam Sukham. That is the first highest happiness. Second, it is highest detachment. Upadi Viveka. Then the third, it is the highest freedom. And the fourth, it is the deathless state. There is no death, birth or death in Nirvana. And it is something unconditioned. Now, I'll just write this on the board and then we'll explain what this highest happiness is. Now, before I write that, first we'll discuss about the happiness. There are 2 types of happiness. They are called Vedika Sapa, Avedika Sapa. Nibbana, the feeling of Vedika Sapa, that is the happiness that we normally enjoy through the gratification of our senses. Now when we see a beautiful object, we are attracted towards that. When we hear beautiful and mellifluous music, we are attracted to that. When we like to eat delicious food, then we like to use perfume, scents. That's a mere gratification of the senses. Our happiness is that. But that doesn't last for long. I told you I gave a poem also last time. What is the poem? From Shelley. Yes? We look before and after and find for what is not. Our sincerest laughter with some pain is fraught. Our sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thoughts. But all the other pleasures of life, for the time being. And how do you enjoy the pleasures? Now you like to, as birdlings, we normally have these 5 pleasures. What are the 5 pleasures? Yes? Now you know what are the 5 pleasures that we have? Rupa, Sabda, Gandha, Rasa, Pottabha. Nice words, Pali. Rupa is the form. Rupa, Sadda. You want me to write that? You are not. Rupa, Sadda, Gandha, Rasa, Pottabha. These are the 5 pleasures that we always go. If there is a load, we say a cargo comes from England, to Malaysia, bringing all the in the ship, all full of goods, electric goods and all kinds of goods, food. But all, if you take all the things that are in that cargo, in that ship, what are the things that you will find? Things that you can see, things that you can hear, things that you can taste, things that you can smell, things for the body. These are the 5 things in that huge ship. So this is, so the fire I just write to you. Thing that we normally, we say as happiness, these things that we normally see, hear, then smell, taste and touch. Those are the things that give us happiness, so-called happiness. No, it is more pleasure than happiness, and they are fleeting, short-lived. And what is the actual happiness that we get from them? I said there are 3 ways of getting it. In anticipation, that means when you go on a trip, we'll say, or you go on a journey. Now you prepare and you expect so many beautiful things to take place. You build castles in there, you plan for so many weeks. Then that gives you pleasure. Now I'm going to go on this journey and then I'll see these people, I'll meet these people, I'll see this beautiful scenery. All that, you imagine, visualize. Then the actual journey, we say, will take about 3-4 days or 5 days. Then you go home. And then what do? You think in retrospect. That means you think what have you go and tell your friends, your relatives, acquaintances, here now I have gone on this journey. And for days you go on down memory lane. Right? You try to relive those memories. Sometimes you see it in your dreams also. Just like when you meet your sweetheart, you think of the sweetheart in the dreams, and wherever you close your eyes, you see her or see him. Something like you go on living in that world, dream world. So, according to Buddhism, this Vedika Sapata is the thing that we enjoy, the gratification of the senses by going after these 5 objects. What is this in Nirvana? There is this Avedika Sapata. There is no feeling. Then you might ask, if there is no feeling, how can there be happiness? Now this is just like when you have a itching skin disease, you have a disease, eczema, eczema. When you go on scratching, it gives you happiness, pleasure. But we say, when you go on scratching, and then after some time you get ulcers, then you have to use antibiotics, tetracycline or some other antibiotic. And when it is completely healed, you feel all right. So in our case, we are scratching. This eye is scratching always, itching. Want to see all types of objects. The ear is also scratching, itching. It can't keep quiet. Now see when you are young and all that, see that small samanera, you jump in this way, that way, you want to see objects. And when you are small is that. No control. But now he has some control here, he has been controlled. So the point is, then the mouth is also scratching. All the time you want to eat. It's like a disease. Then the body is also scratching. So, but when that disease is completely cured, it is something like nirvana. There was a certain monk who came to the Buddha and said, you say that nirvana is the highest happiness. But how can there be happiness if there is no feeling? Because always we want some feeling here. When the feeling goes off, there is no happiness. But the Buddha said, I say that nirvana is the highest type of happiness because there is no feeling. Because feeling is something that changes. When you want to have a present feeling. You can't be looking at the same object, a beautiful object, all the time. I told you. Now we say you like music. We say La Paloma. Those old timers, old people, they like to listen. Blue Danube waltz. you play the same record with, say, 24 hours a day, the same record. You get fed up of that record. When you repeat, when you are hungry, you take some chicken curry, some rice with chicken curry or biryani. And with the biryani, you can take 1, 2, 3, some can eat even 4. And with the egg. Then what happens? If you take the biryani over and over again, you start vomiting. So if you always, they say variety is the spice of life. You have to change the thing. Now you have been seated here all the time. You are seated for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Then you go and sleep. Relax. How long can you sleep? Not for more than 8 hours. Then you have to get up. So we have been changing our postures. That is the happiness that we derive. There was a certain monk in Sri Lanka. One day he gave a talk on Nirvana. And there was a certain Upasika who was very much interested in that sermon. And after the sermon was over, this Upasika went up to the Mahatera or the monk and asked him whether because this Upasika was very fond of eating jack, asked him whether there are jack trees in Nirvana. I told you last time. We are trying to think of Nirvana in terms of the pleasures that we enjoy. We like to have better food, better clothing, better other things, better food. We try to have them in a more refined way. We think of Nirvana in that way. But Nirvana is not a place. Is Nirvana a place? No. Now many people now in other religions, in Christianity, they say that kingdom of heaven, where you are there for eternity and you enjoy yourself there. But can you eat cake every day? Can't. You can't have the pleasures all the time. If you have, you get fed up of it. Now, Nirvana is not a place. But Nirvana is not a state of the mind also. I'll tell you where Nirvana is in time to come. Nirvana, Buddha says, is within this fathom-long body. In one place, it is Nirvana is within this fathom-long body. Now there he says, the world, the beginning of the world, the cessation of the world, and the path leading to the cessation of the world is within this fathom-long body, within us. Now what is this world? World is the world of suffering. What is the cause of suffering? Now you hear me? Cause? Craving. What is Nirodha? Cessation of craving or suffering is Nirvana. And it's within this fathom. And the path which consists of virtue, concentration and wisdom, we have to develop it, cultivate it and perfect it within us. Now you might ask, now Christians also say that the kingdom of heaven is within you. It doesn't mean Nirvana is within this body. But Nirvana arises when certain conditions are there. To give a simple illustration, we'll take a box of matches. I think I gave this illustration earlier. Did I give it to you? You take a box of matches. Can you say fire is within this box of matches? Fire is there. No. Is it inside? Fire, no. You can't say fire is not inside the box. You take a stick and then you strike it, then fire comes. In the same way, Nirvana arises when the mind is purified through virtue, concentration and wisdom. Then to that purified mind you see Nirvana. Just like you say in a mirror is covered with dust, dirt. Then you can't see your face. When you polish the mirror, then you can see your face. You have to polish your mind. Our mind is dirty. It's like a scavenger, scavenger cart. They take the conservancy, all the dirt, full of dirt. They say the mind is a gold mine as well as a rubbish heap. What is a gold mine also? Now you have made it a gold mine here. And we have an experience of this happiness even now here. Now just think of it. Now when you are free from all these worries and troubles associated with family life, some of you are married, you have kept away from all that and you have come here Now don't you experience a certain type of happiness? That is called samisa sukha. As if a huge load, a burden of worries on your head, you carry a big load and you put it down. Your head, then what happens? Then you get your release of that weight, and the body or the head becomes light. In like manner, you are free from all these worries and anxieties and troubles, and the mind becomes free. So at this moment also, you must not, now in other religions, nirvana is, they think of the kingdom of heaven, but as a place where they can enjoy. In Buddhism, many people find it difficult to understand. Now even when I gave the talk yesterday to the graduates, Federation, in Malaysia, they are all graduates, they try to think of nirvana in terms of pleasures, or a place, or a state. But a liberation is a liberation from all these troubles and all. The Buddhism, nirvana is liberation, complete emancipation, salvation, and it is free from all sensual pleasures, and is free from desire to be born in the form and the formless realms. Now some people earlier they thought there was a dancing hall, and Singapore, or somewhere I saw in the paper, and they have named the dancing hall as Nirvana. So when they dance, ballroom dance, they think that they are in Nirvana. Now they try to think of Nirvana in those terms, but Nirvana is not a place. Now you just think, now at this moment, all these 2 weeks you have come here, and your minds are now free of many of these defilements. But you put them down, you suppress them. You take a rubber ball, you know a rubber ball. You take it and put it into water. And when you put it into water, down it goes and up it comes. Now what you do, you suppress all your desires. Your desires are put aside for the time. But they come up again. When you get back to the world, it comes. So nirvana, now you experience a certain amount of happiness now. Buddha says in one place, when we are full of greed, hate, ignorance, then the mind is what? Not free. It is full of worries, anxieties, trouble. But when the mind is free from this, then you get a certain amount of happiness. When they are entirely free, you can just think what type of happiness it would be. Now you have flashes of it, but you don't have it permanently. Now in certain moments, when you come to the temple or when you listen to a good lecture, you are inspired. Or when you meditate, mind is full of peace, of happiness. If that state continues without interruption, that you can visualize as Nibbana. But does it happen? Our life is what? Always you can think of that state of peace that you experience at time. This is only an idea that is, and it is uninterrupted. It continues. That peace of mind and happiness, you can think of it as nirvana, conceive of it, where there is no gratification, not happiness to listen to music, but free when you meditate. Those who meditate will have glimpses of that. Because it is something like this, certain people, when they go through certain troubles, both in body and mind, mostly in mind, we say that they lose their loved ones, and they go to the funeral, and they see what it is like. It is anicca, dukkha, anatta. Vaya dhamma sankara appamadena sampadeta. Whose words were those? Words of the Buddha. And here we also, it has been the Theravada tradition that all funerals they recite a verse. I told you last time, we'll see whether you can remember. What is that? And Sakka, the king of the gods, he uttered those words when the Buddha passed into parinirvana. What was the word? Anicca vata sankara Uppadavaya Dhammino Uppadjitva Nirujjanti Tesan Upasamosiko. So that is the highest type of happiness. Now see, why now Buddha said there, what? Aniccavat sankara Uppadavaya Dhammino. All things that arise due to causes have to pass away someday. And the cessation of those causes is the cessation of all conditioned things, and that is the highest happiness. So, we see that when you go to that funeral and all that, and when we see our loved ones, they are burnt, cremated, and then we think that all things are passing shows. And then we begin to have flashes of insight. Like on a dark night, there is a streak of lightning. Then you see the landscape, you can see the objects. Panya, wisdom arises at that moment. So nirvana is that wisdom is there throughout, just like you begin to see the real nature of life. And then you have a glimpse of nirvana. That idle mind is the devil's workshop. So when you're idle, you do there's another nice saying. Satan finds mischief for idle hands to do. Idle, when you must be busy. So when you're idle, then you'll do all kinds of things. Right? They die. Though you are there, in the heavens or the contribution, they are not permanent heavens. All heavens and hells are impermanent. They are not eternal. And if you are born, you die. Now in nirvana there is no birth. Therefore, there is no death. You follow that? Now all the suffering that we have, now when you take the Four Noble Truths, the first truth, the Buddha goes on saying, Jati dukkha, jara dukkha, vyadi marana. Ultimately he says in short, this 5 aggregates of clinging or grasping is dukkha. Now in nirvana there is no panchaskandha, there are no 5 aggregates. Is it nothing? You might ask the question. Yes? Now you might ask the question, now if you say that in nirvana there is no being, there is no person, does the Arhat live or he does not live after his parinirvana, after his death? How do you answer that? If you say he lives, then what happens? Then you are thinking of the Arhat in terms of our 5 aggregates. And if you say that he does not live, you seem to think that 5 aggregates cease and it is nothingness. But nirvana is not nothingness. It is no thing, but it is not nothingness. Just like Buddha Goswami, the great commentator, poses this question to ask whether the Buddha or the Arhat exists after his death, is just like asking whether a barren woman's child is alive or dead. Because the barren woman has no child. So can you say that the barren woman's child is alive or dead? The question doesn't arise. Now we are trying to think of nirvana in terms of our existence here. That's why we say living or does not live. Because this has been very well put by Edwin Arnold. You have heard of Edwin Arnold, who wrote the Light of Asia. He says, in that Light of Asia says, if they teach nirvana is to cease, say unto such they lie. If they teach nirvana is to live, if they teach nirvana is to live, say unto such they err. I want to write that. Wrong. That's right, they are wrong. Lie there, they live. So those two living and not living, they are relative terms. Nirvana is something we always think of living and not living in terms of our bodies here. You follow? You have got, you can ask questions. But today on Nirvana, all have attained Nirvana, it seems. It looks like. But today no questions. Why? So all. So what? Now I think I have been successful now. Huh? Yeah. Anagami. So no questions. Why it's difficult? No, why no questions? Yes, I think you have a question, something working in your mind. No. You can't understand that. Yeah. If they say Nirvana is to live like a place, living like kingdom of heaven, or we say Brahmaniva, that's a place like. Say unto such, that is not true. Then if they say Nirvana is nothingness, this means nothingness. If you say Nirvana is nothing, some scholars who say, then that's also wrong. Because existence and non-existence, that is called in Pali Uchedavada. Ucheda and Saswata. Now during the Buddha's time, and even today, you find certain teachers who teach Ajita Kesakambali. They were during the 6 religious teachers, and some of them teach that after death, everything disappears. That is called nihilism or nothingness. They say, now they are materialists of today, eat, drink and be merry, for tomorrow we die. And you enjoy, and that is the end. Materialist. They say nothing else. That is a wrong view. Uchedavada is called. Nihilism. Then the other is, others, all theistic religions, all the materialists. Now there are materialists who believe in the philosophy that there is no life after death. Those are doing good. There is no evil. This is the only life. There are people all over in the world today. There are certain parts, like in Russia, Yugoslavia, in certain communist countries. Then all the theists. Who are these theists? Who believe in a God. Except, what's the only religion that doesn't believe in a God? Buddhism. They're very good. 100 marks. Yes, straight away he gave the answer. Correct answer. These are non-theists. You must distinguish that word, yes? You want to say something? Eh? Yeah? Non-theists. Not atheists. Monkeys. So we see that according to Buddhism are not atheists. They are non-theists. Atheism has a bad connotation. It always refers to people who believe in eating and drinking, and they eat to live, not live to eat. There are some people, the whole time they are eating. Right? We also eat, but we don't eat to live. We live. We eat to live. We eat to live, not live to eat. So non-theists. So we see that in Buddhism, that's what it means there. Now you follow. It means that it is not annihilation and end of everything. But there are nirvana is the highest happiness, I said. Not atheism. Then that is amatatta. Then we come to the last. Now, this is about, you don't live there for eternity, like in the kingdom of God, kingdom of heaven, taught by other religions. It is no place. Then is it a state of mind? Huh? No, if you state of mind, it is like the Brahmaloka, Arupi Brahmaloka, taught by whom were the teachers. Then is it a state of mind? Huh? No, if you state of mind, it is like the Brahmaloka, Arupi Brahmaloka, taught by whom were the teachers. Buddha Karamaputta Alala Kalam. The Buddha's teachers. Buddha was not satisfied with that. In the Arya Pariyesana Sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha went in search of the truth. And then he said, I went to this teacher, Alala Kalama, Uttagarama. Alala Kalama taught me to go to the world where the mind only exists, the sphere of nothingness, infinity of nothingness. Other teacher of the Buddha, before when he was practicing the austerities, even all, he taught by giving suffering to his body, he can attain nirvana. There are some people today who seem to think they go to Kataragama in Sri Lanka, you might have heard, or some Hindus, they torture the body. So during the Buddha's time, there were yogis who used to go and stand in the sun, hot sun, to burn their sins. And they used to light 4 fires. While the sun is burning, midnight, not midday, they have 4 fires on the 4 sides. Why are they having the fire? To burn their sins. They thought by having fire can burn. So Buddha one day came to one of these Brahmins and asked him, now, how many of your sins have been burned? How many tons of them have been burned? He goes, how much remains to be burned? They couldn't say. So by bathing in rivers and doing these superstitious things, you won't be saved. You have to bathe yourself. I told you the story of a certain Brahmin who came to the Buddha and said, I'll show you a shortcut to nirvana. I told you it? No. Then I might have told them when I was there at Malacca. So he came to the Brahmin, a certain Brahmin said, I will show you how to attain nirvana quickly. There is a river called the Ganges. Go and bathe. And when you bathe, all your sins will be washed away. Then the Buddha said, what about these frogs and fishes? They are always in the sea, always in the river. So all their sins should be washed away. Not only sins. Water has the inherent quality of washing away all things. What about the good things? Good things also must be washed away, your virtue. Not only your sins, your virtue also should be washed away. Then the Buddha told the Brahmin, by merely washing your body and all that, you won't become pure. You have to clean your mind. And you have to bathe in the waters of dana, sila, bhavana. Now I come to that later. Now if you want to attain nirvana, you have to go not in a bicycle, in a tricycle you have to go. Now some people, now we are coming to it, how to attain nirvana. You have to practice but dana, sila, bhavana. Or sila, samadhi, panya. Through dana you get rid of what? Greed. Good. Who is the person? Yes. Through sila you get rid of what? Through sila, virtue. Then lobha, dosa, moha. These are the 3 roots of all evil. Through dana you get rid of lobha. To sila you get rid of the second. What? Dana, sila, lobha, hatred. Very good. Hatred you get rid of. Then through moha you get rid of what? Through bhavana you get rid of moha. So through dana, sila, bhavana you get rid of the 3 roots of all evil. What are the 3 roots? Lobha, dosa, moha. So we see that we have to get rid of these things only by practicing these 3 that you can attain nirvana. Otherwise you won't be able to attain nirvana. Now the next quality, I said that, what's the next quality I said? Asankat, the unconditioned. Now what does that mean? Now the other word, I got the word now. That other word that you get, I told you about freedom, is Nissarana. Nissarana is freedom, eh? Under freedom, the Pali word, Nissarana. Now, the fourth quality we are going to discuss. Fourth quality of nirvana is that it is asankat. What's the opposite of that? I told you. Sankata, condition. Sankata. Now I said, Vayadhamma sankara. Or Buddha says, Anichavata sankara. That is sankara or conditioned things. Condition, and what the word sankara includes what? All things. Material as well as immaterial. We are Sanskrita, I am a Sanskrita Dharma. This table is a Sanskrita. All the universes, all everything, mountains, all come under the word Sankata, condition. Nirvana is just the opposite. Nirvana is the only unconditioned state. All the things in this universe, God, heaven, Brahma, all are conditioned, Sankata. However much they may talk about heaven, kingdom of heaven, and then they can't equate, then God, all those are concepts, all come under Sanskrit. And the Buddha is the only religious teacher who said that all those things are also conditioned, that they rise due to four causes. That all of us are kept, not created by God, or created by Brahma, or we don't come from the apes, or the chimpanzee or orangutan. But we come into being due to these four causes. Kamma, Chitta, Utu, Ara, I read that. We are born into this world, we are Sanskata or conditioned. Why? Now you are here due to these four causes. Because we don't believe in a creator God. We are not being, there is no creation. What are the four causes? All those dhyāmas and all, you can say Rupa is formed, we come into being to these four. Kamma, Chitta, Utu, Ahara. Ahara is what? Now we are maintained, our bodies and mind are maintained by the food that we take. That is Ahara. Being maintained. Now we say many of us are 20, 24, 30 years, 40 years. So now we are maintained by this four, by this karma that we create. Then by the food we take first. You can think of how much of rice we would have eaten, biryani, or white rice for these 20 years, tons and tons of them. We are maintained by that. So how much of drinks that you take, water, you take, then you take soft drinks, you take Chinese tea, Ceylon tea, and tons of them. For these 20 years if we are living, or 30 or 40 years, we are kept going. We maintain like an engine for petrol, like petrol to the car. We are maintained by the food that we take. We take vitamin tablets, then we take tonics, then we take rice, then the curries, tons and tons of them now we are taken. So we are going on taking till we die. In the Devaloka, in the Devaloka also you have to take food. Right? But in Nirvana there is no food. These four are not there. Only place where these four are not there. Others, all Kama, Rupa and Arupa world are maintained by Kamma, by the mind. Now in the Arupi Brahma lokas there is no Utu, no environmental, by the environmental conditions. Then Ahara there is no food. What is the food of the Brahmas? Mental happiness, piti. Piti is their piti or joy is their mental factors, they exist. Now, Nirvana is not sustained or supported by these four. That's why it is asankata, not a conditioned thing. All conditioned things, there are three marks. What are those three marks of conditioned thing? Sankata. You say, if a person can give that answer, is extremely right, good. They say, is worth, that means that he has followed all these lessons. Now, what is the three signs or three characteristics of these Sankata doctrines? Now I made it simple. of all this sentient existence, there are three characteristics. And all things in this universe, material, immaterial, terrestrial, celestial, all things are, you find the three characteristics. In Nirvana you don't find those things. I told you at the start. Yes, what are Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta. Right now, both of them, young boy here, young Samanera, and our president of our BMS, he said. Now, because Nirvana is just the opposite. Nirvana is Nitya, permanent. Then it is Sukha, highest happiness, not Anicca. Sukha is Dukkha. No, it is Sukha. Nibbanam Paranam. Then it is Atta, it must be. Anatta. That's why I gave those stanzas now. We'll see whether you remember the Ramapada stanzas. Three of them. Yes? Sabbe Sankara Anicca. Sabbe Sankara Dukkha. Then Dhamma. Dhamma there means Nirvana is also included. Nirvana also there is no soul. Right? Freedom for the mind, Cheto Vimutti, or Nissana, freedom. Now, for us, we are in the prison house of samsara. You follow? And we are bound by the 10 fetters. Now, when we are bound by the 10 fetters, we are not free. We are prisoners. But we break these fetters, then we attain nirvana. What are those 10 fetters? 10 fetters of existence that keep you bound to samsara. Now we are in samsara, all of us. But Sakkaya Ditti, Vicikiccha, Silapada Paramasa. That is, when you become a Sovan, first stage of sainthood or Sotapanna, you completely annihilate it. Then Sakadagami. What is a Sakadagami? A person who is born only once, a once returner, who is born once returner to the Kamaloka or sensual. He attenuates, diminishes Kamachanda and Vyapada. Kamachanda is what? Desire for sensual pleasure. Vyapada is hatred. Then when one becomes an anagami, the third stage of sainthood, there are 3 stages to attain nirvana. 4 stages. Sovan, Sotapanna, am I right? Huh? You have written. Huh? Who gave? You have written. That is now, refresh that you must. Now you are refreshing your memory. Now you have been trying to refresh your memory. Yes, so what are they saying? Sotapanna, the first stage is sent to get rid of 3 fetters. Sakkaya Ditti, Vicikiccha. What is Sakkaya Ditti? Delusion of a self. Sakkaya Ditti, Vicikiccha, doubts. And Silabbata Paramasa, clinging to rites and ceremonies. Then when you become a Sakadagami, you diminish what? Kamachanda or Kamaraga. Kamaraga and Patiga or Vyapa. Then never returner, he never come anagami. He said he completely destroys all those 5. Earlier it has 3 have been destroyed. He completely gets rid of Patiga or Vyapada or hatred and Kamachanda, Kamaraga. Then the other 5 fetters are completely got rid of when one attains araship. What are those? Ruparaga, Aruparaga, Mana, Uddacca, Avijja. Now that's why I said the real freedom that you enjoy, experience in nirvana. Why? Because you are free from these 10 fetters. We are bound to samsara. bound to this prison house of samsara by the 10 fetters. We are changed. One day it so happened, King Pasenadi of Kosala went to the jails. The jail. Now our small Samanera is becoming boisterous. He went to the jail. Who went to the jail? A king. King Pasenadi of Kosala. When he went to the jail, he found all the prisoners manacled, chained. When he had changed that, he felt extremely sorry. And he went to the Buddha and said, now see, when I went to the jails, I found the prisoners manacled and chained. I felt extremely sorry. Then the Buddha, what did he say? I mentioned that earlier. Those are not the bonds. Those are not the chains, Pasenadi. Attachment to wife and children and to ornaments. He taught of the ladies, Upasakas were taught of by the Buddha. Why? Because it is said that in the Sigalovada Sutta it is said that the husband should give what ornaments to the wife, because they like the ornaments, the gold, bangles, change. So that's why he mentioned, but ornaments can also means possessions, things that you like. We cling on to them. Now when from prison, when you are released from prison, it's all over. You become free. But we are not free till we attain nirvana. Because in nirvana you have broken the fetters, you have escaped from the prison house of samsara. That's why it is called Nissaranat, Nissarana, or the highest freedom. Now what are the characteristics of Nibbana? Now after that you can ask questions for about 15 minutes. What are the qualities I said? First is the highest happiness. Nibbanam Paranam Sukha. Happiness of two types. Avedika, Vedika. Avedika is pleasure or happiness associated with feeling. Then the other Avedika without feeling. Then I said the second quality of nirvana, characteristic of nirvana is that it is the highest type of detachment. That is called Upadiviveka. Then the third, Amata, deathless. You don't die in nirvana. But if you are born in heaven, you die. Or as a Brahma also you die. Arupi Brahma, all the gods in the higher realms, they die one day, though they are there for eons. But in nirvana there is no birth nor death. Then I gave you that verse of Edwin Arnold for that particular thing quality. Then it is asankatta. It is an unconditioned state. It is not conditioned by what kamma, chitta, utu, ahara, by these factors. And last is, it is nissarnatta. It is a state which is free from the 10 fetters. So, my friend, that I showed you the path of how to attain nirvana. So now you can ask any questions. This is my last talk, and I have been giving a series of talks here, about 10 or 15. How many talks? There were 2 talks on, one I gave on dana, 1 I did. Then paramitas, 2 talks, 3. Then I spoke to you on planes of existence, 2 talks, 5. Then Anicca Dukkha Anatta, 2 talks, 7. Paticcasamuppada, last time I spoke, 8. And today is the 9th talk. So now a series, and then Mind the Terror gave talks on karma and rebirth and other, and our Venerable Dhammananda Nayaka Terror also gave you a series of talks. So now you are like lotuses about the surface of the water. When the rays of the sun falls on them, it blossoms forth into beautiful flowers. So you must not stop at this. When you get back after this ordination ceremony, after this novitiate ceremony, then you get back in your leisure moments. You have to think of these things. Go down memory lane. Right now, memory lane normally we go what? On the sensual side, when you go on a good journey or a trip, and we think of the past. But here also now you must go down memory lane before you go to, the best two periods are early morning and before you go to bed. Those are the best two psychological moments. Because when you go to, before you go to bed, it is said that when you think of these things, you get into the subconscious mind. And that's why teachers and all that, lecturers, they always study certain things. And if they find it difficult to solve any problem, they think of it when? During the night, and the solution is found in the morning. So when you get back, you have to think of these things. What we I have given you several notes. Because now you have learned, then you have to practice realization. So far there is no realization. First we have now theory, you know. That is called the pariyapti, the theory. Practice, we have practiced it. That's why you get now, you know what the Buddhist way of life is. And you have certain experiences. Then realization is not, will come later on by doing the practice and the study of the Dhamma. But to some extent, you have that experiential knowledge that you know that when this greed, hate and ignorance have been reduced, diminished, you get a certain amount of happiness. Now you know that lobha, dosa, moha, greed, hate and ignorance have been less in your mind. When you are in your working places earlier before you came there, they were full of dust in your eyes. But now there is a rubbish heap. They were full of rubbish heap in your mind. But now it is less. You have been minimizing it. But when you get back, you know, as I told you yesterday, when the tiger is fast asleep, he is innocent. Now, the tiger means when the desires are always in suppression, latent. When the tiger gets up, he is dangerous. And he becomes still more dangerous when he pounces. Our defilements are in 3 stages. They are fast asleep. Now they are fast asleep. When you get back to your home, when you get back to your offices, like the tiger, these desires will come up. Then you start what? You start abusing others, then the tiger pounces. Then you give expression to your bad thoughts in what? You give expression in word and in deed. You fight, you argue, and then you hammer others. So we see that these things, you know, have to practice. You must not stop at this. And I end up with this, you know, a certain person went to his teacher, he wanted to learn music. And went to the teacher and said, I want to be a good musician like you, like the teacher. Then the teacher said, I'll give you 3 bits of advice, 3 hints, 3 suggestions. If you do these 3, you will be perfect. First one, he said, he told the teacher, I think I told him, what? The teacher said, practice. Then she went on practicing. After 1 month, she came back and told the teacher, I followed your first advice. Now what is your second? Practice, you remember what I said. Then after some time, after doing all that, practice for another 1 year, then went up 1 month, went up again and asked the teacher, now what is your third advice for me to be a good practice? So you see that the Buddha Dhamma, you know the theory. Now you have practiced it as by following the 8 precepts and the 10 precepts. And you have had some glimpse of what happiness is. That is called Niramisa Sapa. That happiness that is free from the sensual sphere, gratification of your senses. So when you get back, you must practice some type of meditation, do your devotions, and try to practice it, then you will be able to realize that and become a Sovan, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arat. Attain the first stage, second, third stage, fourth. So I wish that all of you one day will attain not in double quick time. I don't expect quick results. There is no instant results. You must neither hurry nor tarry. That's my last bit. Hurry means Now if you want to swim, if you hurry up, what happens? You will be carried away by the waves. If you tarry, go slow, you go down. You are down. You are down. So you must neither hurry nor tarry. Adopt the middle path. And if you adopt the middle path, you will be successful, and one day you will attain nirvana. Now, any questions that you would like to ask? We have until about 4:15. Yes. Good.
Will you be leaving Malaysia?
But I will be leaving on the 20th. I will be going to Singapore for 5 days. I will be lecturing there also. But I won't attain nirvana when I go there. Yes? Then, any questions? Okay. What about the others? Fun? You have to practice, as you said. You said we have to practice it. Huh? No passport. Like going to passport to heaven, I can't give you a passport or a visa. Yes, but any question, any doubts that you had? Yes, with regard to this subject. Fine, any other point? Fine. He has not attained the first stage of sainthood, as the question was raised. Because according to the Bible, what I also was, when you read the Bible, you are able to perform various psychic feats. Walk on water, turn water into wine. Now he had this Panchabi, 5 supernormal powers. It did. But it is said that according to the Bible, he lost his temper. He went to the synagogue, to the church, and found certain people gambling. So what did he do? You know what Jesus Christ did? According to the Bible, he took the whip. Took a whip. Now we are not used to whip on the young Samanera for voices. He took the whip, Jesus Christ, and drew away the money people who were gambling, and called them, you whited sepulchres, you hypocrites, get away from this place. He lost his temper. That is called righteous indignation. But the irony of it is this, that our indignation is always right. Other people's indignation is not correct. So Jesus Christ lost his temper, he wept. Then he said that he cursed the fig tree, because the fig tree didn't bear fruit in time. But in the case of an arahat, he cannot get angry. Anagami also can't get angry. Sovan can get angry. The Sovan has not got rid of Vyapad. So we see that according to my analysis, now you are taught, he was a good man and a person who has developed the 5 supernormal powers, because he did so many, and it is said, now when he died on the cross, what did he say? Oh God, why have you forsaken me? He was helpless. But no one was able to kill the Buddha. And what did the Buddha do at the last moment? He said goodbye to the jhanas. He went to first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, those mental absorptions. He enjoyed those, experienced them, and said goodbye to them. But Jesus Christ was said, oh God, why have you forsaken me? He was helpless, by of helplessness. So, according to Jesus Christ, according to Christianity, it's like going to the heavens. Chatum Maharaj, Tavatinsa, Yama, Tusita, Nimmanrati, Parinamita Vasavat. And going to, according to Hinduism, it is going to the Brahmaloka and the 4 Arupi Brahmalokas. They are in Sansara. Buddhism is the only religion which shows you a way to get out of Sansara. That is Nirvana. It's liberation. All other religions, they teach some sort of existence, whether in the heavens or in the Brahmaloka, Arupi Brahmaloka. So, our Samanera raised this question about Jesus Christ and the Buddha. There is this Buddha as such has attained supreme enlightenment, and he has shown a way of how we could liberate ourselves from samsara. Jesus Christ taught us good things, right? Taught us charity, dana, sila. There is a certain amount of samatha bhavana, but no vipassana bhavana. Jesus Christ, they are not taught about anicca, dukkha, anatta. Buddhism is unique because it teaches the two doctrines of anatta, no soul, non-self, and the doctrine of dependent origination.
Go to nirvana. What will happen to them? Disappear. The horrible things, Why should we work so hard to disappear? Huh? Yes. By knowing the danger, the uncertainty, the difficulties, the problems, sufferings, the fleeting nature of life, so they have worked so hard to get rid of all these problems. So we cannot stop this because we have not prepared. Now this is the difference between Arahantas and the Buddhas and ours. Going to Nirvana is not very meaningful word. There is nobody to go to Nirvana. If there is somebody to go, then there is no liberation. Still within this cycle of birth and death. If there is somebody to go there, we bring here, when somebody asks this question of the Buddha, where is Nirvana? Now he said, Nirvana is in your mind. When the mind is pure, Nirvana is there. Now there is no Nirvana because our minds are dirty and polluted. We never experience Nibbanic bliss. So the Buddhas and Arahantas experience Nibbana while they are living in this world. Not necessary for them to die to experience the bliss, joy, happiness in Nirvana. Two kinds of Nirvana. I do not know whether you have learned. Sopadisesa Nirvana, Anupadisesa Nirvana. Meaning, when we completely eradicate all our mental defilements from our mind, the minds become very, very pure. After gaining this purity, we experience nirvanic bliss. That is called Sopadisesa Nirvana. That means we experience Nibbanic bliss with this physical body. While we are holding these five aggregates, Panchakanda, we experience Nibbana. Then the last one is Anupadisesa Nirvana. That means after our death, when the elements and energies all disintegrated, dissolved, then the final bliss. Two stages of Nirvana. Then Buddhas, Pacceka Buddhas, Arahantas occasionally experience this bliss while they are living for 1 week. That is called samapatti. They attain samapatti. Samapatti means cut off the mind and senses from all the other objects. Then mind alone, mind is alone. No connection with anything in this universe. After that, they focus that mind to experience Nibbanic bliss. They spend for 1 week like that. So during this period, no food, no drink, and physical body also does not look like a living person, just like a dead body. The only difference is when you touch, you see the heat energy is there. When you look at the eyes or the features, you can see it does not look like a dead body. This is the only difference. For 1 week. Complete Nibbanic bliss. So after 1 week, then they get up and become normal. So from time to time, before they are passing away, earlier they experience this. So in our case, when we meditate, what we can do, we cannot keep empty mind. Mind cannot tolerate it. Mind is not used to it. So we had to give an object for this mind to hold on. That object must be a neutral one. If it is a very beautiful one, then that object influences the mind to create some sort of temptation, then disturb the mind again. If that object is a very dirty one, that one also disturbs the mind to irritate. So the object must be neutral. Then mind can rest. That object cannot influence the mind. The mind uses that object just to focus, concentrate. Then close all the senses, stop imaginations, creating thoughts. At the beginning we feel uneasiness because the mind is not used to it. Then experience a lot of physical problems, headache, backache, and sweating, itchiness, and pricking pains, because the mental energy that you are going to harness, accumulate without wasting through the senses and without creating imagination, that energy become very dynamic force. So, create a vibration. That vibration create this problem. It depends on your physical system, your constitution in the body, which area will be affected. Many people complain headache, giddiness, or sweating. But slowly you have to just ignore, then disappear. And some others experience some vision. It depends on their previous concept or imaginations come out from the subconscious mind at that time, influence the mind. In simple language, the hidden devils in the mind. You know, in the dark corners in our mind, there are devils hiding. The devils never come from outside. They jump from here and appear in front of us. That means our thoughts, concept, belief we have deposited in the mind. So when we meditate, what will happen? At the moment, we don't open the mind fully, just like our lungs. When you take normal breathing, we don't open the lungs completely. It's like this. The lungs is working like this. When you take deep breath, then open lungs. That is why it is necessary for us to take deep breath to get more oxygen into the lungs. So in the same way, we don't open our mind completely. We open only certain department, certain faculties and use. There are dark corners in the mind. Still we have not opened. So the devils are hiding there. So when we open the mind completely to meditate, those devils cannot hide anymore. They come out. That means our thoughts, concept, then appear as vision. Get frightened. Mental disturbances take place because of that. Many people get this problem, experience this problem, because they have not learned this secret. If not their own imagination, create the vision. Do you know a well-known Buddhist story? A meditation master had a disciple. The disciples learned everything from this master. But the disciples could not attain Arahanta. But the teacher is under the impression that he is an Arahant. But the disciple could not understand whether it is true or not. So he knew that there is nothing for him to learn anymore. So he went to another teacher. From him he learned completely. He attained Arahanta, the disciple. After attaining his Arahantahood, he wanted to see whether his disciples, the teacher, has attained Arahantahood or not. He knew not yet. But he was under the impression he is an Arahant. Then he came to see the teacher. Paid respect. Arahantas also pay respect to ordinary monk according to their seniority. Then asked whether you have attained your Arahantahood or not. Then the master said, why not? I can perform any kind of miracles. If I am not an Arahant, how can I perform all these miracles? Then the disciple said, okay, can you show me? Then, yes, what do you want me to show? The disciple said, can you create a huge elephant in front of you? Yes. At once he created the elephant. There you are. See, huge elephant. All right, very clever. Disciple said, Now, can you ask this elephant to come charge you, attack you? Yes. Then he asked the elephant to come and attack. Then the elephant is coming, raising his trunk. The master got up to see right. Then the elephant come near. Then disciple asked, do you think Arhantas has fear? Oh yes. Then he knew that he is not an Arhant. Because Arhantas and Buddhas have no fear of death. So many people are under the impression that they gain this and that, although they can do or perform little bit of supernatural, the psychic development, but this may drop, when certain other evil thoughts appear in the mind, and it will drop again. This is the nature of the mind.